attends.
Welcome to the Bible Project Daily Podcast. It's great to have you with me as we journey together through the whole Bible chapter by chapter, verse by verse. And today we're in Numbers chapter 26, and we're going to try and cover all of this huge chapter. And we're going to look at the day God chose again to count his people. You know, in both the political and the religious spheres, there's a fascination with counting people. Politicians love to do it. They like to do it locally with their opinion polls, but nationally as well with the census. The Christian church isn't immune to it. Ministers and pastors with their congregation love to keep a track of the numbers attending and giving. Marketeers use market research and public opinion every day. But interestingly, God is seen also to engage in this practice, not once, but twice, and he does it during the lifetime of Moses. This act was so significant, this counting of the people, numbering of the people, was so significant that an entire book of the Bible is dedicated to it. Yep, it's this book we've been studying together called Numbers. But why did God bother to number the people? What's the significance behind it? These are the questions we're going to explore today as we look at Numbers chapter 26. But before we do, let's remind ourselves that the focus of Numbers is the shift from the older, unbelieving generation of Israelites, those destined to perish in the wilderness, to this younger generation poised to enter the promised land. This shift will mark God's gracious preparation for a new generation to receive their inheritance. So as we prepare to study Numbers chapter 26, let's keep in mind this transition in focus and the context of God here and his preparation of this younger generation before their battle against the Midianites, as they were commanded they would face in the preceding chapters. So with that in mind, that context, let's study it together, and welcome to today's episode of the Bible Project Daily Podcast. Okay friends, here we go. Another one of those massive chapters today, Numbers chapter 26, where we're going to examine the second census of the Israelites under Moses' leadership. Now it's going to take me about 12 minutes, I would estimate, to read this chapter. The text of it, or a link to the text, will appear in the episode notes. So if you want to skip the reading itself, because it's one of those long lists of names, so I hope I get through it without too many mispronunciations. But the link to the text will be in the episode notes. And when I come at the end to address it, I'll be focusing mainly on the numbers and the significance of them rather than the list of names. Anyway, as is our pattern to go through the whole Bible verse by verse, I'll begin reading at verse 1. After the plague, the Lord said to Moses and Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest, take a census of the whole Israelite community by families, all those 25 years old or more who had been able to serve in the army of Israel. So on the plains of Moab, by the Jordan River, across from Jericho, Moses and Eleazar the priest spoke with them and said, take a census of the men 20 years old or more, as the Lord commanded Moses. These were the Israelites who came out of Egypt. The descendants of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, were through Hanok and the Hanokite clan, through Palu, the Paluite clan, through Hezron, the Hezronite clan, and through Carmi, the Carmite clan. These were the clans of Reuben. Those numbered were 43,700. The sons of Palu was Elab. The sons of Elab were Nemuel, Dathan, and Abiram. The same Dathan and Abiram were the community officials who rebelled against Moses and Aaron and were among Korah's followers when they rebelled against the Lord. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed them along with Korah, whose followers died when the fire devoured 250 men, and they served as a warning sign. You'll remember that when we covered it a couple of chapters back. Continuing in verse 11, the line of Korah, however, did not die out. These are the descendants of Simeon by their clans. Through Nemuel, the Nebulite clan. Through Jamin, the Jaminite clan. Through Jachin, the Jachinite clan. Through Zerah, the Zerahite clan. Through Shaul, the Shaulite clan. These were the clans of Simeon. These numbered were 22,200. The descendants of Gad by their clans were through Zephron, the Zephronite clan. Through Haggai, the Haggite clan. Through Shuni, the Shunite clan. Through Ozni, the Oznite clan. Through Eri, the Erite clan. Through Arodai, the Arodite clan. Through Ariel, the Arielite clan. These are the clans of Gad. These numbered were 40,500. Aaron and Onan were the sons of Judah, but they died in Canaan. The descendants of Judah by their clans were through Shelah, the Shelite clan. Through Perez, the Perezite clan. Through Zerah, the Zerahite clan. The descendants of Perez were through Hezron, the Hezronite clan. Through Hamul, the Hamulite clan. These were the clans of Judah. Those numbered were 76,500. The descendants of Issachar by their clans were through Tola, the Tolite clan. Through Puah, the Puite clan. Through Jeshub, the Jebusite clan. Through Shimron, the Shimronite clan. These were the clans of Issachar. Those numbered were 64,300. The descendants of Zebulun by their clans were through Zerah, the Zerahite clan. Through Elon, the Elonite clan. Through Jalhil, the Jalhilite clan. These were the clans of Zebulun. Those numbered were 60,500. The descendants of Joseph by their clans, through Manasseh and Ephraim, were the descendants of Manasseh. Through Machir, the Machirite clan. Machir was the father of Gilead. Through Gilead, the Gileadite clan. These were the descendants of Gilead. Through Lesser, the Leserite clan. Through Helek, the Helekite clan. Through Azriel, the Azrielite clan. Through Shechem, the Shechemite clan. Through Shemida, the Shemidite clan. Through Hepher, the Hepherite clan. Zelophehad, son of Hepher, had no sons, he only had daughters, whose names were Mahalah, Noah, Hoglah, Mikah, and Tisra. These were the clans of Manasseh. Those numbered were 52,700. These were the descendants of Abraham by their clans, through Shuthelah, the Shuthelite clan. Through Becher, the Becherite clan. Through Tahan, the Tanhanite clan. These were the descendants of Shehulah. Through Iran, the Iranite clan. These were the clans of Ephraim. Those numbered were 32,500. These were the descendants of Joseph by their clans. The descendants of Benjamin by their clans were through Bela, the Belalite clan. Through Ashbel, the Ashbelite clan. Through Ahiram, the Ahiramite clan. Through Shuphan, the Shuphanite clan. Through Hupham, the Huphanite clan. The descendants of Bela through Ard and Naham were through Ard the Ardite clan, through Naham the Nahamite clan. These were the clans of Benjamin. Those numbered were 45,600. These were the descendants of Dan by their clans, through Shuham, the Shuhamite clan. These were the clans of Dan. All of them were Shuhamite clans, and those numbered were 64,400. These are the descendants of Asher by their clans, through Iman, the Imanite clan. Through Ishvi, the Ishivite clan. Through Beriah, the Beriite clan. And through the descendants of Beriah, through Heber and the Heberite clan. And through Machiel, the Machielite clan. Asher had a daughter named Sarah. These were the clans of Asher. Those numbered were 53,400. The descendants of Naphtali by their clans were through Jezreel, the Jezreelite clan, through Gunai, the Gunite clan, through Jezer, the Jezerite clan, through Shillem, the Shillemite clan. These are the clans of Naphtali, whose numbers were 45,400. The total number of all the men of Israel was 601,730. Then the Lord said to Moses, the land is to be allotted to them as an inheritance based on the number of names. To a larger group, give a larger inheritance, and to a smaller group, a smaller one. Each is to receive its inheritance according to the number of those listed. Be sure that the land is distributed by lot. What each group inherits will be according to the names for its ancestral tribe. Each inheritance is to be distributed by lot among the larger and the smaller groups. These were the Levites who were counted by their clans. Through Gershon, the Gershonite clan. Through Kohath, the Kohathite clan. Through Merari, the Merarite clan. These also were the Levite clans: the Libnite clan, the Hebronite clan, the Maholite clan, the Mushite clan, and the Kohorite clan. Kohath was the forefather of Imran. The name of Imran's wife was Jochebed, a descendant of Levi, who was born to the Levites in Egypt. To Amram she bore Aaron, Moses, and their sister Miriam. Aaron was the father of Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. But Nadab and Abihu died when they made an offering before the Lord with an authorized fire. That's also giving the context there of something we've covered earlier in this book. Continuing verse 62, all the male Levites a month old or more numbered 23,000. They were not counted along with the other Israelites because they received no inheritance among them. These are the ones counted by Moses and Eleazar the priest when they counted the Israelites on the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho. Not one of them was among those counted by Moses and Aaron the priest when they counted the Israelites in the desert of Sinai. For the Lord had told these Israelites they would surely die in the wilderness, and not one of them was left except Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, son of Nun. There we are. That's the entire passage. Now, the significance of all this, of the census, became evident immediately in verse 2. It's noted that the purpose was to include determining the military strength of Israel as they would prepare to face these various conflicts, battles even, that God had said they would. However, there's another reason behind this sentence. Scholars have pointed out that the 24,000 we just saw perish in a recent plague as recently as chapter 25 were the last remnants of that generation that had refused to enter the promised land some 38 years early. Now, calculations estimate that around 1,200,000 of the older generation had died during those 38 years. That meant there were approximately 85 funerals per day in the wilderness. A staggering number, but it provides context for the magnitude of mortality experienced during that time. It also represents the time in which we see the life expectancy witnessed initially among the early biblical patriarchs reduce to amount similar to that which we see today. Now, as Moses and Eleazar comply with the command given in the opening verses to take this sentence, then beginning at verse 5, the chapter takes a sort of turn. Hereafter we initially see the 12 tribes listed by name, and under each tribe names are given corresponding numbers, as you heard. And what you heard, obviously, was a lengthy, meticulous catalogue of names and numbers. In fact, it was 65 verses long. Given its detailed nature and the fact that it's focused fully on the names and the numbers applicable to them, well, as a reading it can seem tedious and repetitive. But what I want to do is just rush through it again, not reading it again, but simply highlight the numbers that were quoted at the end of each section rather than delving into the individual names and what they mean. We're going to focus on the numerical data provided for each tribe, beginning with the tribe of Reuben, which we saw in verses 5 and 6, and we saw that they numbered 43,730 individuals. Now, this enumeration sets the tone for the subsequent numbering of each and every other tribe that follows on. Now, comparing the numbers from this second census to those we got in the first, we can see dramatic fluctuations in each tribe's population. For instance, the tribe of Reuben decreased by approximately 3,000 individuals over 38 years. So it signified a loss from the older generation to this new generation. But if we take, for example, a tribe like Simeon, we find a much more significant decrease of 37,100 individuals, more than any other, in fact, and that's likely due to the apostasy described. We actually just studied it a few days ago in Numbers chapter 25. The other tribes saw decreases, but not so dramatically. The tribe of Gad now numbered 40,500, so that's a decrease of 5,150 from the first sentence. Yet in contrast, we see the tribe of Judah with a modest increase, totaling now 76,500 individuals, which in fact reflects a gain of about 1,900 people. Similarly, the tribe of Issachar is seen to have experienced growth, with a total now of 64,300 individuals, making an increase for that tribe of nearly 10,000 people, 9,900 people. Zebulun's population have also seen a gain of 3,100 to 60,500, again more than the first census. If we move to the tribe of Joseph, specifically Manasseh, we find another significant increase of 20,500 people. Now that tribe totals 52,700 individuals, while yet another tribe of Joseph sees a decrease of 8,000, leaving now in the second census just 32,500 people, down from around 40,000. And finally, the tribe of Benjamin now numbers 45,600 individuals, marking a substantial increase of over 25%, 10,200 people from the first early census. These fluctuations in population across the different tribes highlight the dynamic nature of Israel's demographic changing over this time. Now, despite the meticulous recording of names and numbers, we shouldn't fail to see the wood for the trees and recognize the underlying message of this chapter is quite clear. This new generation is being prepared to enter the promised land, replacing the older generation, one that would perish out due to disobedience. Thus, this second census, I believe, is meant to serve as a reminder of the consequences of disobedience and the importance of faithfulness to God's command. During these 38 years described for us over these last chapters we've been journeying through together, approximately 1.2 million people have died, leaving roughly now 600,000 new adult males at the end of this lengthy wilderness journey. This indicates that the population overall did not really grow during that period. Also, it emphasizes clearly the consequences of disobedience to God's will. However, we still see that despite the earlier people's rebellion, God remains faithful to his promise that to give them the land of Palestine, a promise he had made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob centuries earlier. The older generation, numbered in the first census, were marked by unbelief and rebellion, and they in fact perished in the wilderness, while a new generation has emerged, and is now being prepared to enter the promised land. Thus, the numbering of the people not only is meant to reflect this demographic change within Israel, but also, of course, underscores the broader narrative of God's faithfulness, whilst at the same time asking us to recognize the consequences of disobedience. But there's a second aspect of the census, And it's highlighting for us the division of the land among the tribes of Israel once they enter in. Each tribe's portion of land will be allocated according to the number of individuals in that tribe. So again, there's a picture here of fairness and equity in God's distribution of the land, basing it on the size of each tribe. This division of the land is a crucial step in God fulfilling his promise to give the land to the descendants of Abraham, but he's seen to do it with fairness and equity by allotting specific territories to each tribe based on number. God is ensuring that his covenant with Abraham would be fulfilled in its entirety and fulfilled fairly. This division, also mentioned in this numbering, emphasizes the importance of maintaining fairness, equity, and unity among the tribes, as they would need to work together to actually conquer, settle, and subdue the land. Furthermore, this division of land serves as a reminder of God's faithfulness, provision, and providence in being able to do that. So despite the disobedience of the previous generation, God remains committed to his purpose to give the land to his people, this subsequent new generation numbered here. So the first part of the census just dealt with the numbers ready of young men ready for war, but the second aspect of the census highlights God's faithfulness in fulfilling his promises and his very meticulous planning in dividing the land among the tribes of Israel fairly. I think it underscores for us the importance, of course, to obedience to God's commands, and the fact that once those consequences of sin have been outworked, then there is a huge importance put by God upon the unity of God's people in enabling them to fulfill his purpose. And then there's a final closing part to the census, which is described for us in the last sort of 15 verses of Numbers 26. It's about the Levites. Unlike the other tribes, the Levites are seen not to receive a portion of land, no inheritance in that way. Instead, their inheritance was to be the people who were called into the service of the Lord, both in the tabernacle and subsequently in the temple. This is a significant distinction with the other tribes. It highlights their unique role within the Israelite community. The Levites were to remain set apart for sacred duties, including serving as priests and assisting in all the worship rituals and the running of the religious life of the nation of Israel. Their entire livelihood and their purpose would revolve around ministering to the Lord, but also ministering to his people as well. And as such, they're not allocated land like the other tribes, but rather they're to rely on God's provision through the other people, through the other tribes, for their sustenance and the ability to serve in the way they've been called. Verse 60 specifically emphasizes that the Levites were not included in the census of the other tribes. It tells us they're not to inherit the land. They're to be separate, set apart, indicating this distinct status and special role within the nation of Israel. In effect, they're entrusted with the spiritual welfare of the whole nation, ensuring that the worship of God is conducted according to the way God wants it. And this service would be vital for maintaining the overall spiritual health and the integrity of this whole community. So in summary, the inclusion of the Levites in the closing part of the census serves to underscore their unique position within Israel as a tribe, a community of people set apart for divine service. Their omission from any land highlights that theirs, in fact, inheritance is a spiritual inheritance and is key, central in the role of facilitating worship and thereby maintaining the covenant relationship between God and his people. Okay, that's the narrative, the Old Testament, but how should we reflect on it today? Well, Numbers 26, particularly the conclusion, I think overall is meant to provide a sobering reminder for everyone, even today, of course, of the consequences of disobedience, aligned yet with the faithfulness of God, that he will always fulfill his promises. So God's faithfulness here is demonstrated in preserving the nation of Israel, but the generation that initially refused to enter the promised land have faced the consequences of their disobedience and have died out. In fact, only Joshua, Caleb, and Moses, in a sense, will remain from that generation, as the rest will all perish in the wilderness, have all perished in the wilderness, marked at this point by this new census. So this is meant clearly for us today to serve as a powerful reminder about the importance of obedience and trust in the way God wants to guide us. The disobedience of the Israelites revealed through this story of their wilderness wandering, well, it leads to their exclusion and from that entire generation inheriting the promised lands. Surely that must serve as a warning about the potential severe consequences of living a life in rebellion against God's commands, both individually and collectively. Furthermore, the Levites' unique role and inheritance as service of the Lord, revealed at the end of this numbering, underscores the significance on a national level, a community level, of prioritizing spiritual devotion over things like material possessions. Just as the Levites were called to serve in the temple, believers today, I believe, are called to prioritize their relationship with God over other worldly pursuits, but to frame it within a new covenant perspective. Numbers chapter 26 challenges us to reflect on our own obedience to God and to prioritize our relationship with Him and serve Him in the way that Jesus prescribed in the New Testament. So we've made it through another massive chapter in the book of Numbers, 65 verses. So in summary, I believe the Lord carried out a census on the people for two main reasons. Number one, declared right at the start, to determine the military force that would enter and conquer the land, and secondly, determine the allocation and division of the land after that occurred, making specific note of the fact that the Levites are not included in the numbering for the reasons I've just explained. Now, the comparison between the first and the second generations of these census ultimately, I believe, is meant to offer us a lesson. I would say, to sum it up in a big picture perspective, it's simply a lesson about how important it is to learn from the mistakes of the past. The first generation, despite being offered and then prepared for triumph, ultimately met disaster due to their disobedience and due to their lack of faithfulness in following the Lord's commands. In contrast, this second generation will be represented with an opportunity for greatness again if they can learn from the lessons of their predecessors and remain faithful to the Lord, even if they're going to meet obstacles along the way, just like the first generation did. The second generation of Israelites, counted here in Numbers' second census, has the chance now to avoid the mistake of their parents and to embrace faithfulness to God. And I think for us, reflecting on this, the consequences of disobedience, the potential rewards of remaining steadfast in our commitment to the Lord, tells us that we can achieve greatness and fulfill God's plan for our lives by being faithful to Him. So it seemed like a long list of names and numbers, didn't it? But don't lose sight of the main message, because even through it, I think the message is clear. We all have a choice to learn from the failures of others, and we all have the opportunity not to repeat the mistakes that others have made before us. And that applies whether it is in our personal struggle or even in our collective endeavours as churches, and I would say nations as well. Recognizing and heeding, paying attention to the lessons we can learn from history, particularly biblical history here, can lead to greater wisdom, greater resilience, greater understanding of God's plan for our lives, and ultimately potential triumph in living under the blessings of God. And surely we can be thankful to that for him giving us such a passage here today. Okay, we'll leave it there today. I do hope you found that helpful. Sometimes these long passages, a list of names and numbers, can feel a bit overwhelming, but there's often a very clear, simple message lies at the heart of them. I hope we got to the bottom of it today. Can I remind you, my name's Jeremy McCandless. You've been listening to the Bible Project Daily Podcast. Really glad that you've decided to join me today and be with me. But if you are here for the first time, then why not join this community and make the commitment to make the everyday study of the Bible part of the rhythm of your daily life. You do that by simply subscribing wherever you get your podcasts from. It's completely free, and that way you'll never miss another single episode. And if you've got a minute, why not visit us on our homepage, which is thebibleproject.buzzsprout.com, because it's there you'll find the additional free resources I provide, quite a lengthy episode notes page and overview, as well as indeed a full transcript of everything I've said. All free, everything I do is free and in the public domain. You'll also find links to other places you can connect to me. There's even a link to the Patreon community where you can join there. You don't have to by any means commit to financially support the ministry to become part of that community, but it is there that people can reach out to me and become involved in the story and get a little scene behind the door of other aspects of my life and ministry. It's also the place where some people choose to support this ministry, thereby making it freely available on over 25 podcast platforms, enabling it to be listened all around the world. And as a thank you for those people who support in that way, I offer lots of free additional resources, free books, and early access to new material and exclusive content only available there. But the main thing is always the main thing, and that is to gather together, friends, on the Bible Project Daily Podcast and work through the whole Bible together. And I do hope I'll see you back here again tomorrow or very soon. And with that, I'll say bye-bye for now.